My name is Ethan, and for a long time I believed my marriage to Laura was solid. We didn't fight much, we worked as a team, and we understood each other. At least, that's what I thought. But everything started to feel strange when her new boss, Mr. Dalton, entered the picture. From the first day she mentioned him, something inside me felt uneasy. It wasn't jealousy. I've never been the jealous type. It was the way she talked about him, too carefully, like she was choosing her words. And every time I asked how work was going, she skipped over anything that involved him, as if the less I knew, the better. At first I tried to ignore it. She had always been loyal. I trusted her. But the small things kept adding up. He called her late at night for updates. He bought her a book that reminded him of her work ethic. He complimented her outfits at meetings. She brushed off everything, saying it was normal office stuff. One evening, I walked into the kitchen and found her smiling at her phone. Not a big smile, but the kind people make when they don't know they're smiling. I asked what was funny. She locked her screen so fast it made a sound. "Just a work message," she said. And she said it casually, but her eyes didn't match her voice. That was when the uneasiness finally turned into a real concern. Days later, after dinner, she casually announced, "I'm planning a small birthday party, nothing big, just close friends and some people from work." I didn't think much of it. "Sounds good. What do you need me to help with?" She shrugged. "Maybe just help me check the guest list?" When she handed me her notebook, I scanned the names, friends, cousins, a couple of neighbors. Then I saw it. Mr. Dalton, confirmed. I stared at it for a few seconds before asking, "Why is he coming?" She answered too fast. "He's my boss. It would look rude not to invite him." "That's not a work event, Laura. It's your birthday." She sighed like I was bothering her. "Ethan, don't start. It's normal." That was the first time I felt something break inside me. Not a big crack, just the beginning of one. I set the notebook down. "Listen to me. I'm saying this clearly so there's no confusion later. If you invite him, I'm out." She froze. Her hand tightened around the edge of the table. "You're overreacting." "No," I said softly. "I've ignored enough already. If he shows up, I won't stay." She rolled her eyes and said, "You're acting childish. He's just my boss." But beneath her voice I could hear something else, a small hint of fear. She knew I meant every word. The days leading to her birthday felt heavy. She didn't bring up the warning again. She didn't talk about the guest list. She acted like my words didn't matter. But deep down, I knew she hadn't removed his name. And when the morning of her birthday arrived, she got dressed with extra care, choosing a dress I had never seen her wear before. That alone told me the truth long before the party even began. Before we continue, please comment where you are watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting revenge stories. Laura booked a private lounge at a hotel for her birthday. When we arrived, soft music played in the background, and the room was decorated with warm lights and simple colors that matched her taste. People greeted her with hugs and smiles, and she floated around the room like she owned it. I stayed close to the corner, trying to blend in. I didn't want to ruin her night, even though a part of me already felt distant. She barely looked my way. She was polite, but something about her felt formal, like I was a guest, not her husband. I kept reminding myself that I was here for her, not for anyone else. The earlier warning still echoed in my head, but I tried to push it aside. Soon, guests began handing her birthday cards and gifts. She laughed, posed for pictures, and thanked everyone warmly. Then, something caught my eye, an empty stand on a small table near where the cake sat. It had a small white card tucked in the corner, turned upside down. I didn't think much of it until Laura walked over, lifted the card, and smiled, as if checking that everything was in place. Before I could ask what it was, the room shifted. The door opened, and everyone glanced over. Mr. Dalton walked in. He wore a dark suit like he was attending a company award ceremony, not a birthday. In his hand was a long, wrapped box tied with a bright ribbon. He scanned the crowd, spotted Laura, and walked straight toward her with the confidence of someone who believed he belonged anywhere he stepped into. "Laura," he said with a wide smile. "Happy birthday." People murmured. Some women raised their eyebrows. A few men exchanged looks. It wasn't jealousy. They looked confused, the way people look when something doesn't sit right. Laura laughed in a way I had never heard before. Not loud, not soft. Just different, forced, but polite. She reached to hug him, and he hugged her back with both arms, pulling her close in a way no boss should hug an employee at a personal party. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just watched. She stepped back and reached for the item on the table, the one she had checked earlier. She turned it around and placed it in front of him. A card, white with gold lettering. Simple, but bold. "My most special guest, Mr. Dalton." The room went silent for 2 seconds. Just 2, but they felt heavy. Someone whispered behind me, "Her boss?" Another person said, "Why would she write that?" Laura didn't seem to hear any of it. She smiled and said, "Just a little joke." But everyone could see it wasn't a joke. It was prepared, thought out, printed, not handwritten. A joke isn't printed on thick card paper with gold edges. A slow warmth crawled up my chest. Not anger, not shame. Something colder. Something that made my heart feel tight. She saw the look on my face, and her smile faded for a moment. Not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for me to catch. I took a slow breath and stepped out of the lounge without saying a word. No one stopped me, and Laura didn't follow. I walked down the hallway, through the lobby, and out into the cool night air. I didn't rush, I didn't slam doors, I didn't look back, I just walked away. And as I started the car, there was only one thought in my mind. She had made her choice, and now I had to make mine. I drove home slowly, letting the silence of the road settle the storm inside me. I wasn't angry in the loud, shouting way people expect. I felt something deeper, like a door inside me had closed, and I didn't know if it would open again. When I walked into the house, everything looked the same. The lamp in the living room was still on. The blanket on the couch was still folded neatly. Our framed photo from a beach trip 2 years ago still sat on the shelf, but none of it felt like home anymore. I sat down for a moment, hands resting on my knees, breathing in and out. I didn't want to act out of emotion. I wanted to think clearly. And for the first time in a long while, thinking clearly meant thinking about myself, not about holding the marriage together. I stood up, went to the bedroom, and opened the closet. I didn't pack everything, just enough for a few days. A couple of shirts, jeans, and my toiletries. I placed them neatly in a small travel bag. No rush, no panic. Everything felt strangely calm. While I was packing, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Laura. "Where did you go?" Then another. "Are you being serious right now?" I didn't respond. A few minutes later, "Ethan, please don't ruin tonight." I turned my phone face down on the dresser. If anyone had ruined the night, it wasn't me. After I zipped up the bag, I sat on the edge of the bed and thought about everything. Not just the party, not just the most special guest card, but the months leading up to this. The ignored concerns, the brushed-off conversations, the late messages she laughed at and didn't explain, the shift in her tone, the small secrets she didn't think I noticed. I picked up my phone again, but not to text her. I scrolled to a contact, a person I hadn't needed to call in a long time. When the call connected, the voice on the other end answered quickly. We spoke for a few minutes, calm, clear, direct. No shouting, no drama, just facts. And when I hung up, I felt a sense of control I hadn't felt in months. I placed the phone down, grabbed my bag, and walked out of the bedroom. Around midnight, the front door opened. Laura's footsteps were uneven, quick, nervous. She walked into the living room, spotted me sitting on the couch, and stopped like she had walked into a wall. "Ethan," she said, breathless. "You left the party?" I didn't raise my voice. "I told you what would happen." She set her purse down and came closer. "It was nothing. You misunderstood. The card was just I held up my hand to stop her. Laura, don't explain something we both know isn't true. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. For the first time that night, she seemed unsure of herself. I shouldn't have left, she said softly. I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean for it to look bad. I watched her carefully. She looked worried, but not fully aware of the weight of what she'd done. Not yet. Ethan, she whispered, you're not leaving, right? Instead of answering, I stood and picked up the travel bag. She froze, staring at it like it was something dangerous. Where are you going? She asked in a small voice. I need space. Space? Her voice cracked. From me? I didn't answer. I walked past her calmly, opened the front door, and stepped out. Just as I closed the door behind me, she whispered something faint, something she probably thought I couldn't hear. Why are you doing this? He's just my boss. Her words followed me into the night, but my mind was already somewhere else. Because while Laura was still trying to calm things down, someone else connected to her choices was about to lose control completely, and by morning, he would show up at our door, shaking, frightened, and demanding answers she wasn't ready to give. Laura didn't sleep that night. She told herself she was fine, but she wasn't. She paced the living room, called me several times, then sat on the sofa staring at the door like she expected it to open at any second. The house felt too big without me in it, and every sound made her jump. Morning came slowly, gray and heavy. She changed clothes twice, washed her face, and kept checking her phone for a message that never came. She didn't know where I went, and she couldn't calm her own thoughts long enough to figure out why I left so quietly. Around 6 a.m, just as she tried to make coffee, someone banged on the front door, loud, fast, hard enough to shake the frame. She froze. Another round of knocks, this time sharper, more desperate. Laura hurried to the door. Who is it? No answer, just breathing. She opened it halfway, then gasped. Mr. Dalton stood there. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie loose, and his hair looked like he had run his hands through it 100 times. He wasn't calm or confident like he'd been at the party. He looked terrified. He pushed the door wider and stepped inside without waiting. Where is he? He demanded. His voice was shaky, not angry, afraid. Laura backed up. Where is who? Your husband, he snapped. What did you tell him? What did you make him do? I didn't tell him anything, she said, confused. What are you talking about? Why are you here like this? He started pacing the living room, rubbing his forehead. This is bad. This is really bad. The company, my position, everything's falling apart. Laura blinked. What company? What position? Mr. Dalton, slow down. But he didn't slow down. He turned sharply toward her. His lawyer contacted me at 6 a.m. Do you hear me? 6 a.m. She stepped back. His lawyer? Yes, he said, voice cracking. Your husband didn't just leave the party, he filed something. A report, a complaint, a legal statement. Everything, every detail. About last night, about me, about the way I interact with you at work. Laura's mouth fell open. Ethan wouldn't... He did. Dalton pointed at her as if trying to make her understand the weight of it. And the legal team forwarded everything directly to corporate headquarters. This isn't some small issue anymore. This is an investigation. Laura felt her stomach drop. She looked at the floor as her mind raced. I didn't know he would do that. Dalton laughed, an empty, broken laugh. Well, he did. And now I need to know exactly what you told him. What did he see? What did he think was going on between us? Nothing is going on, Laura said, raising her voice for the first time. Nothing. Dalton stared at her. It doesn't matter what's true. It matters what's written in that report. It matters what they think. And right now, they think I crossed the line because you let me get too close. Laura felt a sting in her chest. I didn't let anything... He cut her off. You gave me a tag that said, most special guest. You let me hug you like that in front of everyone. You invited me to a personal party where your husband didn't even want me there. Laura, this looks terrible. She sank onto the couch, finally realizing the depth of what her choices created. Dalton lowered his voice. If this goes the wrong way, I could lose my job. And you might get dragged into it. Laura's heart beat faster. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Well, it happened. His voice softened, but not kindly. And now we need to figure out what your husband wants. Because right now, he's holding all the power. She stared at the doorway, empty and silent, wishing more than anything that I was standing there so she could fix something before it got worse. But I wasn't there. And she was only just beginning to understand why that mattered more than she ever realized. I returned home later that morning. The house was quiet. Almost too quiet, like it was holding its breath. Laura sat on the couch, eyes wide, clutching her phone as if it might explode. I could tell she had just spoken to Dalton, and from the way she looked, she realized she was in over her head. I didn't rush in. I didn't shout. I didn't throw my hands up in frustration. Instead, I dropped my small bag by the door, took a deep breath, and let the moment settle between us. She was waiting for an explanation. She wanted words, but I knew words alone wouldn't fix this. I did what I had to, I said quietly. Not to punish anyone, not to embarrass anyone, but to protect us from people who don't respect boundaries. Including him, including her, including anyone who crosses a line. Laura's shoulders shook. Tears welled in her eyes, and I saw the weight of realization hit her like a hammer. I didn't think it would go that far, she whispered. I didn't know. You didn't know because you weren't paying attention, I said firmly, but not angrily. You didn't listen when I warned you. You didn't consider what might happen if he crossed the line. And now, you're seeing the consequences. She flinched. I never meant for any of this to happen, she said. I didn't think you'd actually take action. I finished for her. I nodded once. Yes, I acted. Calmly, carefully. And yes, I went through the proper channels. I documented everything, every message, every inappropriate gesture, every moment that should never have happened in a professional setting. I didn't exaggerate. I just reported the truth. She sat in stunned silence. I could see Dalton's panic from the morning had finally sunk in for her. The threat to his career, the lawyer's involvement, the investigation, it was real. And it had been triggered by my decision to remain silent and composed when I left that party. I thought you were just calm, she said softly. I thought maybe you were just upset, but you wouldn't do anything. I shook my head. Calm isn't weakness. Silence isn't forgiveness. I gave you a warning. I gave you a chance to make the right choice. You didn't take it. Now we see the results. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Ethan. I never wanted to hurt you. I see it now. I see what I've done. I sat down across from her, watching her closely. Apologies are words. Trust is action. Respect isn't negotiable. You need to understand that our marriage, our home, our relationship, it's built on boundaries, on listening, on seeing each other. If that is ignored, there are consequences. She nodded. I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. To prove it matters. I looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a faint sense of hope. The warning had been ignored. The action had been taken. And now the truth was out. Dalton would face consequences at work, and Laura had to face the truth about her choices. This changes everything, I said. Not just what happened at the party, not just with Dalton, but us. If we're going to move forward, it has to be honest. No pretending, no ignoring boundaries. From now on, we either face things together or not at all. She nodded again, swallowing hard, realizing the weight of every word. and for the first time in months, I felt that calm determination settle in me. We could rebuild this, if we truly wanted to. If respect, honesty, and boundaries became the foundation again. The lesson was clear. Silence can be louder than anger. Patience can be sharper than threats. And respect, once tested, must be earned every single day. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting revenge stories.